Cop mistakenly pulls over CIA agent, accuses him of matching a suspect. You won't believe what happened next. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do? Imagine being mistaken for a criminal by someone who should protect you. How would you feel if you were wrongfully targeted just because you fit a description? At the end of this story, you will be the one to tell us if you think this cop should be sent back to the academy to retrain or not. It was an ordinary evening, or so it seemed, for undercover CIA agent James Lawson. As he drove through a quiet street on the outskirts of town, blending into the background was second nature for him. After all, staying unnoticed was part of the job. But tonight, things would take an unexpected turn. Have you ever been in a situation where your identity could change everything? What if the person judging you had no idea who you really were? The flashing lights in his rearview mirror brought James out of his thoughts. A police car was tailing him, its siren blaring. For a split second, he thought of driving off. His instincts as an agent warned him that something didn't feel right. But he knew better. Drawing unnecessary attention could blow his cover. Why would a cop be pulling over an ordinary car? Was it a misunderstanding or something more? What would you do in his position? James slowed his car, pulling over to the side of the road. His heart pounded, but he kept his expression calm. After all, he was trained for high-pressure situations. But this wasn't a high-stakes mission. This was his everyday life, and now he found himself in a situation beyond his control. The officer approached with a swagger that hinted at confidence. Or was it arrogance? "Step out of the car," the officer demanded. James hesitated, sizing up the situation. The officer was younger, perhaps in his mid-20s, and his stance indicated he was prepared for confrontation. Have you ever encountered someone who judged you before even knowing you? How would you respond if they tried to force you into a position of submission without reason? James exited the car, maintaining a calm demeanor. "Is there a problem, officer?" he asked in a steady voice, hoping to de-escalate whatever misunderstanding had led to this encounter. The officer's response was anything but friendly. "We've had a report of a suspect matching your description involved in a recent robbery nearby. Where were you 10 minutes ago?" Imagine the humiliation of being interrogated on the side of the road, with no reason to doubt your innocence. How would you react if your character was being questioned based on assumptions? James held his gaze unflinching. "Officer, I think there's been a mistake." He tried to keep his voice neutral, but there was a hint of tension that couldn't be masked. The last thing he wanted was to blow his cover, but he couldn't stand there and take baseless accusations. The cop, however, seemed to be relishing his authority. "A mistake, huh? So you're saying I don't know what I'm doing?" He looked James up and down, his eyes narrowing. "You look pretty nervous. Got something to hide?" What goes through someone's mind when they're accused of hiding something they haven't done? Do you comply, or do you stand up for yourself? The CIA agent in James wanted to snap back, but he knew he couldn't afford to escalate the situation. He took a deep breath, reminding himself to stay calm. "Look, officer, I have no reason to hide anything. But I assure you, I'm not the person you're looking for." But the cop wasn't backing down. "I know your type," he said, sneering. "Driving around in an unassuming car, thinking you won't get caught. You thought wrong, buddy." Have you ever felt like no matter what you say, someone's already made up their mind about you? How frustrating must it be to know the truth, yet be trapped by someone's prejudice? James clenched his jaw but kept his composure. He wasn't going to let this cop get the best of him. Not today. But the officer wasn't finished. Without warning, he grabbed James's arm, attempting to pin him against the car. "Hey, there's no need for that," James protested, trying to free his arm. The officer's grip tightened. "Resisting now, are we? Makes you look even guiltier." How often do misunderstandings spiral out of control, especially when pride and authority are on the line? How far can someone go before they're pushed to defend themselves? At this point, James's patience was wearing thin. He'd stayed calm, tried reasoning, even tolerated the officer's harsh accusations. But this was getting out of hand. "You're making a serious mistake," he warned in a low, controlled voice. The officer's smirk didn't waver. "Oh, is that so? I think it's you who made the mistake by thinking you could get away." Just then, James noticed other officers arriving at the scene, apparently called in for backup. He realized this wasn't going to end with a simple explanation. If he wanted to protect his identity as a CIA agent, he'd need to be strategic. What would you do if more people joined the scene, each one ready to judge you without knowing the truth? How would you handle an unfair trial right there on the side of the road? As the situation escalated, James saw the crowd gathering, curious onlookers who had no idea what was happening but were already taking sides. To them, he was just another suspect caught by the police. One of the officers moved closer to the cop holding James. "What's the charge?" he asked, looking between them with mild curiosity. "He matches the description of a robbery suspect. Tried to resist when I pulled him over," the cop said confidently, as though he'd cracked the case of the year. Imagine watching your reputation crumble, knowing it's based on a lie. How much injustice can a person tolerate before they have to take control of the situation? James knew it was time to put an end to this. He reached slowly into his jacket pocket, ignoring the suspicious glances from the officers. Pulling out his badge, he held it up, letting the letters CIA glint under the streetlight. A hush fell over the crowd as the officers stared at the badge in shock. "Wait, you're a CIA agent?" one of the officers stammered, looking horrified. James gave a slow nod. "That's right, and I think we've had quite enough of this little misunderstanding, don't you?" The cop who had pulled him over looked like he'd seen a ghost. The color drained from his face, and he took a shaky step back. "I didn't know. I thought." James didn't let him finish. "You thought you could treat someone like a criminal just because they matched a description? You need to understand that not everyone fits into a mold of guilt and innocence based on how they look. How would it feel to finally expose the truth to those who doubted you? What lessons would you hope they'd learn from their mistakes?" Realizing his mistake, the cop muttered an apology, his voice barely a whisper. But James was done listening. He'd seen enough to know this wasn't just a one-time error. It was a symptom of something much deeper. The crowd dispersed, murmuring to themselves, some looking embarrassed, others simply relieved that the situation hadn't ended in violence. As James got back into his car, he couldn't shake the thought. How many people face this kind of treatment without the power to reveal a badge? Before driving off, James turned to the shaken officer one last time. "Next time, do your homework. Not every match is what it seems." With that, he left, hoping that tonight's encounter would leave a lasting impact on the cop who had been so quick to judge. How many misunderstandings could be avoided if people took a moment to look beyond appearances? Isn't it time we ask ourselves what kind of assumptions we're willing to make about others? Do you think this cop should have been sent back to the academy? Leave your comments in the comments section. Let's see what you think.
If you've watched this far, comment which country you're watching from and leave a 100 in the comments section because you are type of person that likes to finish what they started. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to get notified whenever we drop new videos.